Exclamation, everybody. When we last left off, I had begun to bring some order to the chaos, ever so slightly. However, I have left the project in a very, very broken state at the moment, where this is definitely not going to compile in any way, shape, or form. So I thought it'd be good, since I want to eventually get this project back to a point where I can put a build system in place, so that others could actually download this and import it via the build system and have it work and be in the correct structure and all that stuff, and then eventually get unit tests going and maybe even integration tests, and just try to, figure out exactly what's going on under the covers here. But to get to that point, we have quite the distance, and I've renamed a lot of things without refactoring them, and I've done. I mean, I've renamed things without telling Eclipse, my IDE, that I refactored them. So now I kind of have to go through and do the hard work of actually renaming the references to make sure that everything is working and whatnot. So that's what I'm going to kind of do right now, is to try to go through and actually get things, references where it says UI, to say user interface, references where it says sounds, to say, what did I call sounds? Hasn't been that long since I did it. Effects, and those kinds of things. And the only easy way I could do that now, since I didn't do it technically right the first time, is to go through one at a time by hand and start changing some things. So I guess it's time for me to clamp down and start doing it. So I'll do it with you guys in this file, since there's not a whole lot that needs to be done here. Although I need to figure out where with and all this stuff was. Probably it's in the VE class, I imagine. And then I'll probably do the rest in a sped up portion, or even off camera, depending on how long it takes. And we'll see how we go here. But first of all, first things first, UI. So using the refactor in Eclipse here, if I do Control-2, brings up our little quick assists, and then R is rename in file. And because I have the cursor over UI, it knows that this is the one I want to do. So I say user interface, and then hit enter, and it changes it in all places. And then for sounds, we want to change that as well. So another Control-2 and R. And then we want to change this to say effects. And I left the S there just so that it wouldn't completely blank it out. There we go. And then this I just need to import. There we go. And now we're a little bit better. We're still running into things that aren't visible because I've moved things around to their own classes. There's no longer some visibility into things and whatnot. So we're gonna have to work on that a bit. Then keys as well is now keyboard. So Control-2 and then R on that. So keyboard, whoops, B-O-A-R-D. There we go. And then we'll have to import that from there. And yeah, and then there's a bunch of like globals that it's working with, like graphics contexts and things like that, which are not great. So I've at least fixed, I think, the external references that I moved around anyway in this particular file. It's only done in this file. But now the question is, what do I do with some of these other things like graphics contexts and things like that? So my thought is that I'm guessing that graphics context is probably used in all of the UI things here at some point, other than units, that is. I bet all these have like graphics context in them. This options, actually this one doesn't. This one will be easy. So user interface here, I think options I changed to be, what did I change that to? That's a good question. Did I change options to something? I changed it to, what did I, oh, under options here. Oh no, it's still called options. So I can hit escape there. I just have to bring it in. So it's, where does it, here we go. Change to that. Oh, okay, so problem here is it brought it in fully there because there's an import that's wrong. So if I go like this, I come back down here and I hit Control Shift M, that will pop it back up into an import, and then that will end up fixing all these other ones because I fixed the import basically. Other than obviously units is not visible, but we'll have to work on that a bit. You can also see there's a whole bunch of things. There's a whole bunch of fields here that are not used. This is why having the correct visibility on things is so important, because this shows you right away, like, these are private, so they can't be used outside of this scope, and yet they're not even used inside the scope, so they're really not doing anyone any good at this point. But we'll have to go through and clean those up as we go. You can see there's like 20 warnings here. We definitely want to clean up the warnings as we go, or well, as soon as we get a handle on some of the things here. Vehicle select, yeah, we got like player names and vehicles and match. This is a lot of just, there's a whole lot of just globals that are shared around, and it's just due to just the way they had this laid out. I mean, that's why they threw everything into that one class. That's the other problem with throwing all these enumerations and everything, or all these subclasses into one class, is that you end up having all this code bleeding through to other code, and you're sharing all these variables that you wouldn't otherwise be able to share. And now you're trying to track down when something changes. Like if say some other piece of code changed the number of vehicles in the match to an incorrect value, or it reset it or something, and you're trying to debug and track down where it was reset, well, it could be reset anywhere, because all these different disparate things now are pointing to this one variable. Whereas if you had a chain of what variable is getting set where, you'd see, oh, it's getting set incorrectly here, and this is where it's getting set, and this is why we're having a problem, and that kind of thing. So it's all about being able to debug and be able to see where everything, where you've gone awry, if at all. So we do have a reference to UI here that we can fix, like so. I don't see another one immediately here. I do see some unfortunate variable naming, very unfortunate variable naming. We're going to fix all of that, friends. Oh, here we go. Keys. This also needs to change. There's a lot of references to the keyboard too, the keyboard class everywhere, which I'm not really that on board with. I get why they're doing it. I get why this is here and why they're looking at it, but really it should be a little bit more, I feel, probably abstracted out. But we'll see how that measures up as we go here. Let's fix that and then import that. All right. So that takes care of those. We still have vehicle maker to worry about and all these variables, but we've got some of the things fixed up here. And vehicle viewer, right, this is the one that had the two enums together that I still haven't figured out what to do with or why it's like this. But we do have a reference to user interface here that we can fix. All right, and it looks like just, oh, yep, there's keys as well. Control 2 and then R, keyboard, and then we'll import that puppy. Okay, and then we have some sounds too as well. All right, and then we have to import that enum. Effects.ui.play. Wonder, and that's, yeah, visibility of that. Weird. Weird stuff. And then this UI didn't actually get picked up. That's interesting. Is that because this is outside? It's weird that it didn't pick that up like the other ones. There must be a, I wonder if there's a scope thing going on here. Or if I pulled too much into this one class. I guess we'll find out. Yeah, it didn't actually change these either. Again, that's really strange. I wonder why it's having problems seeing that. Unless there's a local variable called UI. That would be really messed up, but no, it doesn't look like it. There must be something because it's not actually broken. UI.selected. UI.selected. Is there a UI in here? Is there a variable called UI in here? I don't see one. It's weird. I find it weird that it's not flagging those as errors. Even though they really should, like UI.clickRangeY. Like, why is that not an error? Is there a, because I don't see anything defined in here as UI, right? Let's do just a regular old find. Effects UI, effects UI, effects UI, UI selected. That's weird. See, you know it's bad when you're doing something so strange that even the IDEs are like trying to figure out what's going on. Like when your IDE is struggling to figure out what you're doing, it might be a good time to reevaluate. Okay. Yeah, I wonder why that is. That's just, and it's not changing any of these here, which is very strange. Very, very strange. Because all these should be references to keyboard. And then user interface. I'm assuming, I mean, it's got to be what it's referring to, unless I miss. I mean, I did a search for UI and I didn't find anything, so it's got to be that, right? See, this is why it's like you start second guessing what's going on. You're like, you know, why is this not working the way you would expect it to? Keyboard. Keyboard, like that. Keyboard in use. I'm guessing that's correct there. Where's my effects at? Did I have one up here? I don't think so. All right, let's do it this way. Whoops. There it is. See, it sees the import, but it's not immediately it's not making the change here. What does this end? Maybe I have what ends at enum. Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. These are a part of vehicle viewer. That's why they weren't changing, because they were outside the scope of the other one, which is just, this is why you don't do this stuff. This is why you don't do things this way, because it just makes everyone else's life horrible. So with user interface draw opacity minimal, what is wrong with this one? User interface draw opacity is not visible. Yeah, I'm going to see a lot of these not visible things until we go and really try to fix this up. So that's the UI package done, sort of. Kind of have to do the rest here. I'm tempted to start removing these, like converting these from enums to just regular classes. But before we do that, maybe I should pick one that's a little bit less extensive, perhaps. We got more keys here. So I want keyboard. There we go. And sounds should be effects. Yeah, effects, right? Keyboard effect. Okay, I gotta import these. Import effects. Import keyboard. Tournament is still intact. It's just moved, so we can just import that. And more of these here. See, it's so confused it doesn't know how to fix all the things. Like that. Yeah, that's gonna really complicate things, because if my refactoring is not refactoring everything, which it's not, then we're gonna have lots and lots of we're gonna be renaming things forever here until we get it to a better state. So keys goes there. Sounds changes to effects. Didn't I put another effects up here? Yeah, let's do that. Just copy paste it this time. Effects. Can I do this and will it work? User interface. No. And that's referenced like 22 times here. And it won't even fix the references for me. There we go. We're getting there. We are getting there. So that's those. Status. UI. Looks like we got that. Effects. I think we've got everything here. I'm just kind of doing another quick run by to see what I see. Okay, so it looks like we got that somewhat sorted. Units VEs. Okay, I think so options run. I don't really get that. But private static void run options. They've got a main. Well, it's not even main. It's just run. So they're doing some kind of threading. It looks like possibly, but they're not doing threading the right way, which is just kind of baffling to me here. I think what we're going to do, what I'd like to do is start to interface selected. Minus user interface selected. So they're pre-decrementing the selected variable in user interface for some reason. Huh. There is state all over the place here. Like at first I thought the enums were here to kind of like carry state along. But now I'm seeing things like this, and I'm going, man, there's like 9 ways a Sunday that we're changing the state of other objects without like we're directly affecting the state of other objects. Like, how would you ever keep this in your brain? Like if you're ever trying to debug something, man, you're just screwed here, because there's like I said, there's so many ways that things are going to get set differently. Whereas really what you need is on user interfaces make user interface a POJO and have, or something very close, very similar to a POJO, have a set selected on it, right? Or set whatever, and just say, and then that way you can do a Control-Shift M and see everything that references set selected, and then wherever that thing is changing. Or have a method that increments the selected and decrements the selected, which is what you're basically doing. And then that way you can tell every part of the system that's calling that, and you don't have to, play whack-a-mole with it. But yeah, all right. I might, as we go here, start actually changing these to classes. Like I really want to change this one to a class, so that's what I'm going to do, I think, right now. So we're going to do public class options, and we're going to get rid of this nonsense here altogether. Who calls this is a private, so who's calling run? See that it doesn't even know. It's like, here's potential matches, but not direct matches. Is frame tick might be calling run, right? Yeah, options.run. Interesting. Interesting and weird at the same time. Okay. So basically what that's saying is this needs to be public. And it can still be static too. Because options here doesn't really have any state per se, it looks like. So that's a thing. So what we can do is make this public. Public static run, public static void run. From menu status. All that means really is when we go here, I mean, we could still call it options.run because it's static. There was no reason for that to be the way it was. The only caveat here is we have to reference everything now. Everything that this references has to be static, which we have a driver's seat and a match length that are statics. Again, I'm at a loss for words as to why they're statics, but they are. And the other thing here, and this is what's bothering me too. If you really want to be able to call this stuff in a generic way, why not have just like if options is really a user interface thing, and honestly this needs to get kind of broken up into what's user interface and what is actually manipulating the options. But yeah. Yeah, because it's at this point that I'm looking at it and I'm going, well, if you really want to do options properly, you should just have a class that has all your options currently, right? Whatever options currently are, you read those options in from probably a properties file, and you write them out to a properties file when they're changed, right? Because you want to be able to save what people have selected, I would imagine. And then you pull all this UI bullshit out of here and put it into an actual options interface, right? Over here where you got user interface, have an options interface, right? And then that calls the options here, which can then do stuff for you. This is just like, there's so much crap just jammed into this one thing for no good reason, right? It's like, have a class that does one thing and does one thing well, and then you can worry about having everything else. And degraded sound effects, I don't even know. Like, it's got normal mapping and a heads up display. Oh, I guess those are individual options, I bet. Degraded sound effects, yeah, like, okay, because we're yeah, normal mapping, match length, game mode, interface on, user interface off. Really? There's like an on and an off toggle, which makes sense to a certain extent. Holy crap! This is going to be the more I dig down here, the more I'm like, ooh, I've pulled one thing apart. Now there's 900 other things that need to get pulled apart or are going to be broken because of it. Options units. Get unit name, get unit speed name, get unit speed, get unit distance. The user interface has just... I mean, that's all that's in the user interface. I'm realizing now that like the user interface had like almost nothing in it, which to me says that this is supposed to be a top level class that then is extended and or implemented. Like, this should be an abstract class, I feel like, that you then extend, that all your other user interface things extend, and then this guy has all this stuff in it, the stuff that's shared by all the user interface. Because that's what we're really missing. We're missing object orientation is what we're missing. Like, it's like yeah, we're just missing all the object orientation stuff. It's like it was written as a C program, where it was written as a functional program instead of as, an OOP. And when you bring OOP into it, you realize that you've got a lot of shared stuff that should be shared. You've got a lot of references to things that you don't need in multiple places, kind of thing. So I feel like, options is, here's the thing, options has too much stuff in it. So I feel like we're gonna take a break from trying to make a build that works, because the more I look at this, the more I realize it's going to take me weeks to get a build that actually works, just from the little bit of changes I made, because there's a lot of little things here that I think we need to really address. I'm not even really changing the code per se. I'm not changing the contents of the code. I'm changing where the code lives. But then there's the part of me that's like, well, you should just get it working, or at least not get it working, get it compiling. And while I agree, there's a lot of visibility problems right now, and the only way I'm going to solve those visibility problems is if I start to get some OOP up in here, up in this house. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to have a class. We're going to make a POJO right now. So we're going to do, we're going to call it game options, right? And we're going to, should I make it, I'm debating whether to make it serializable. It doesn't actually hurt to make it serializable right now. Because, yeah, but are we ever going to really... maybe. No, I won't make it serializable for the moment. I'll just do whatever we need to do at the... just do the minimal here. So that's game options. So then, I'm going to move this down here so I can see what I'm doing. We got game options split down here. And so what do we have? We've got driver seat match length, which are longs. What does driver seat map to? Right, left, center. Right, left. Is what side you want the driver seat on, I guess? That's weird. If driver seat is greater than 0, then it's right. Else, driver seat less than 0, then... Oh my god, why are you putting so many... Oh, they're just inline if happy here. Oh my god. Please, any developers watching this, please don't ever do this. Just don't. Just don't do it. Just make an actual if statement. Like, it's okay to have an inline if, but don't do a compound inline if like this. That's bad news. That's just bad news across the board. Don't do that. For Christ's sake, don't do this. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. All right. Well, so driver seat and match length sound like two things that are options. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to do this properly, hopefully. We're going to do private long driver seat position is what we're going to call it, because that's what it is. Private long match length. And yes, I could declare them this way with the comma, but no, I'm not going to do that because nobody does that. Period. End of sentence. Nobody does that. Mostly because if you're debugging, you really want these to be separate lines. Trust me on that. Just trust me on that. So driver seat 0 or greater than is that. So it's really driver seat position, which in and of itself. Now here's what is kind of hilarious. This kind of thing here, it's like if driver seat is greater than 0, then it's on the right. Otherwise, it's if it's less than 0, it's on the left. Like this kind of thing really could be. I mean, what exactly is this a? I'm trying to figure out if this is a toggle or is it just saying -1, 0, +1? Like what exactly? Keyboard left, driver seat minus. So you're actually moving the driver seat a certain amount. Okay. So it could be, wait. Now, if keyboard left and driver seat is greater than -1, then driver seat minus, which would make it potentially -1. If keyboard right and driver's seat is less than 1, then driver's seat plus plus, which would potentially make driver's seat +1. I think they're using this just as a toggle, as a three-way toggle, where they're just saying the driver's seat can either be on the left, in the center, or on the right. It's either -1, 0, or +1 is what I think is actually happening here. And it's not like a long number. So ironically, this would be a perfect time to have an enumeration. I just I don't get it sometimes. All right, I mean, this would be the time when you would use an enumeration. This is not. Instead, they've got this funkiness here, which is just because it's a long, it'll be defaulted to 0. So you're saying if you push to the right or push to the left, then make it -1 if it's not already -1. If you push to the right, then make it +1 if it's not already +1. Yeah, I mean that's basically what they're saying there. So in the worst possible way they could say it. So what we're going to do, driver's seat position. What we're going to do is we're going to make an actual enum, and we're going to call it driver's seat position. And we're not going to care what number it is, because we don't need to care what number it is, because it's an enum. Driver's seat position. And I'm just going to put it under options for now, because that's where it's used, but we might want to move this somewhere else later, but it'll be easy to move later on. So hey, here's an actual use case for an enum. Driver's seat position, left, right, or left, center. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter what order I do it in. Left, center, right. Done. And save that. And then this becomes driver's seat position equals driver's seat position dot center. Bam, that's your default. All right, and that's not a long. That is a driver seat position. There we go. And we're done with that one. All right, none of that like less than this, larger than that bullshit. You know which way to go because you know where you're at. So match length. Let me make sure there's nothing crazy going on with this. Match length is match length 0.55 text offset. Okay. Where is match length set? If keyboard left and match length is greater than 0, then match length equals math max 0 or match length minus 10. So take whatever's greater, either 0 or the match length minus 10 is what it would be if you're doing left. So match length can never be below 0. It can only go to 0. Keyboard right, add 10 to the match length. Okay, so match length is a number that makes some sort of sense. Although apparently there's no upper limit to the match length. There's just a lower limit, which I guess is fine. So what we'll do here, even though it automatically sets it to 0, I'm going to set it to 0 anyway, so that there is no ambiguity as to what the default is going to be. And actually, I don't know. Maybe they set a default here? No, they don't. They set it to 0, don't they? I don't know why match length 0 is the default, but that's what it is. I assume there's some kind of conditional at some point that says if the match length is 0, then here's the default amount of time for the match. I And then you're just adding 10 seconds to it, maybe? Who knows? Units. Static units equals units VEs. So that is what units we're going to be showing on the screen. So I will do private units. I think, and I believe this is speedometer units, but I guess I can just call it units and we'll know what we're talking about perhaps. So I'll just say units equals units dot VEs. There we go. Okay, that's in there. The normal mapping and heads up display are both equal to true and they're booleans. So normal mapping, user interface on, user interface off. So what is user interface? If normal mapping, then user interface on. Otherwise, user interface off. Is that just the word on? Okay. That's just the word on. Got it. How do you change this? Where do you change this? Here we go. Keyboard enter or keyboard space, selection ready. Normal mapping equals not normal mapping. All right, and I guess that's the same for heads up display. Heads up display equals not heads up display. Right. I don't even see it. I don't even see it anywhere. Where is heads up display here? Oh wow. Heads up display is not even used. And it doesn't tell me that's not used because it's public. Okay, wait a minute. Let's do Control-Shift-G. Nope, nothing. Nothing with the Control-Shift-G. But that could be because I made this a class now. I can't find it. All right. Well, we'll keep it in there just for the sake of argument. But we'll see what that. We'll see if that's actually used anywhere. So private boolean normal mapping equals true. Private boolean heads up display equals true. Cool. All right, degraded sound effects. What is this? Where is this used? I must know. Does not appear to be used in here. Let's see if I can do, it's package private though. Alright, so that's used somewhere else. And that would be defaulting to false because it's not set to anything here. So we'll do private boolean, I guess I'll call it degraded sound effects. Degraded, E-G-R-A-D-E-D. Sound effects equals false. There we go. And then show info. What does this mean? What does show info mean? Is it in here anywhere? It does not appear to be in here anywhere. Because that's pretty generic. It's like show info. Alright. I don't know what that means, but alright. Private boolean show info. I don't know what info they're showing or not. We'll find out as we go along and have to rename it probably. Okay, good. So now I think we have a nice little POJO here. We don't quite have a POJO yet because I got to do source. Generate getters and setters, select all, and is it going to be after, I want it as the last member, there we go, and generate, boom, there it is. Now we've got public getters and setters for all the fields in that class that automatically generate it. We now have an official POJO. And that means then we can go in here and remove all of this stuff. Just get rid of all of it, because we're going to have a reference to the game options class. So I'm going to do that, and we're going to say private game options equal game options equals new game options. Hey, look at that. We actually used the new keyword for a change. It's amazing. Cool. And then that'll have all of our defaults right now, which is where we would have been anyway. The one thing the other reason I wanted to pull the game options out is because we'll definitely want to load these from a properties file at some point and save them to a properties file so that they're on the disk and they're saved with the users. When the user actually sets them, they're remembered. So that pulls those out of there, which means everywhere that we were referencing like driver seat and all that stuff, we now have to reference options.driver seat and all of those things. Let's do, so that would be, yeah, well, we'll get there. So status options menu. VE status options menu. I guess, oh, that's setting the status to us being in the options menu. Status cannot be resolved to a variable. Equals, oh, from menu equals status, which equals options. So what they're doing is this, effectively. They're setting a Boolean status equals options menu. So if status is, we're in the options menu, then from menu is the menu that we were previously at was the options menu. But where did status go? Oh, status is, I know what status is. Status is from the main class, the VE class. Why do we need to know what menu we came from? I guess they have some kind of user interface treatment that they're doing. It says, here's where you used to be. I'm not sure what I can do about that at the moment. I guess it would have to be, I'd have to get the status from, the current status from the VE class, which we're going to need elsewhere, most likely. Or just pass it in. Yeah, like why even come in here if you don't, yeah, like I can just do Boolean from menu. And we just get what I'm gonna yeah, we'll just delete that. Screw it. Oh, if from Boolean from options menu is what it, because it's only looking at one particular status. It only cares about one particular status. So you say from options menu is what we want there. Still a weird thing to, I assume there's some kind of treatment, that special treatment they put on it for that. So from options menu there, that takes care of that. User interface return. I don't know what is, oh, that's just text, right? Continue return back to main menu. Yeah, okay. All right, so here's where we get into where we actually need object orientation. So this is really the options menu. And now that I've divorced the game options from the options menu, we can now move this to where it's supposed to be, which is down in UI. So we're going to go options here. I'm going to say, is it saved? Let's make sure I save this first. So options, we're going to go refactor, we're going to move, and we're going to move that down to the UI here. Good, do that. All right. So that's down in the UI, and then I'm going to change this to options interface. So Control to R, options interface, bam, and tell it to rename the file, because the file has to be the same name as the class. And there it is. So options interface.java is what we got now. And then this is just doing user interface stuff. So it's under the user interface package where it should have been in the first place. And that means also wherever we have references to user interface.return, actually these are now working because these are package private, right? They don't have private on there. They have package they don't have a visibility on there, so they become package private, which means anyone in this user interface package or the UI package here can see those now, which is okay for the moment, but honestly, we should have some actual real OOP going on here, I feel like, because there's a lot of statics in here that really don't need to be what they are. They don't need to be statics, and B, yeah, let's fix this up. So we're going to fix this up right now because we've moved this over into user interface. So now let's first of all make this a class, what it should be. We're going to make this an abstract class because there's no also let me close out game options and driver seat position so we can see more of the screen here. Yeah, these are all static, right? So there's no static. Oh, there is one. No, not static. Okay, yeah. So there's no what's the word I'm looking for? Come on, brain. You've said this thousands of times before. There's no state. There's no state in this class, which is good. So then we just have to say, instead of an enum, we'll do an abstract class user interface. Okay, so by making the class abstract, we make it so that nobody can instantiate user interface. User interface just becomes something that you extend now. All right, there we go. We got our constants now, and they actually have the proper mechanism by which they are now all capitalized and things. So we'll have to change whatever few references there were to them, but that's not a big deal. We also have a bunch of these things: selection weight, selection timer, selected, page, click range, Y, base offset, base click offset, text offset. See, here's what bothers me here is we have the potential for a lot of magic numbers, right? And these feel like something. These feel like something. I'm not sure. So selection height is 0.03. Then we're initializing click range Y to 0.03 times 0.5. And then base click offset to negative 0.025 and text offset to 0.01, which I guess are the defaults. For each selection. Selection timer, selection weight. That's just to have a timer that tells people they have to make a selection quickly, I guess. Oh, there's an enum hiding in here too. Draw opacity. That's okay. Again, that bothers me. It's like draw opacity. Well, you could just pay minimal, maximal, right? But instead they did private there for some reason. It's private final, right? So you're basically declaring constants. So why is it wrapped in an enum? I mean, it could be an enum and be a constant, right? I mean, that's the whole point of a freaking enum, is to have freaking constants. Right? Constants with maybe a little bit of business logic around them, like whoop-de-doo, right? It's like they're trying to this kind of boggles my mind a little bit. They're trying to make every method call not have any parameters. Like they're worried about the stack. And that's the weirdest thing to be worried about. Like, oh, I can't pass things on the stack. Like, that's the whole point of having a method, right? Is to have the method figure things out for you. So really, instead of this method, like the whole point of this get unit name is to give you the English name of the unit, right? And the same with the speed name, right? This is distance. This is really get distance name, right? Get unit distance name, get unit speed name. So we're going to actually rename this. Is this, that's not what I want. Is this referenced? It does have a reference. Okay. So if I do a Control-2 and refactor on it, get unit distance name. I don't know if that, I think that only renames it in this file, so we'll have problems with that elsewhere, but you know what, I wonder, let's see, refactor, change method signature. Yeah, here we go. Get unit distance name. We'll do that. Potential matches, cool. Okay, that's good. And then I will, and yes, in there I could have introduced the parameters, but I didn't want to do that because I just wanted to get the name changed so that I don't have to change the name. I could just, but when I see the errors, I know where to go for the errors. I know that they still come here. So get unit distance name, and then we'll say it's units, right? Just that's the enum. Units, current units. Bam. All right, and then this becomes this. Can you do an equals equals on it? I guess you can, right? Because it is the same object. Yeah, you can. Oh, for crying out loud! You know what? We're gonna we're gonna fix this if here, because I do not like these compound inline ifs. They just muddy the waters. So what are we looking at? Units VE's name. Units metric. Or so if current units equals units dot VE's, then Unit VE's name. We didn't actually set the name on that though, did we? Oh, well, the name would be the same as the name as the enum. Okay. Sure, I guess. So let's do string distance name equals I mean, I could make it an empty string, or I could make it equal to units VEs and then just get rid of that if. But then I still have to do... It's not really saving me anything. Alright, we'll just do empty string here. Distance name. And we'll say distance name equals units.ves.name. Else if current units equals units.metric, then distance name equals they have a hard-coded meters there. Let's make this. I want to take whatever strings I find around and make sure that they're at one spot here, so I can, when I go back later on to replace them with the proper way of doing it, I can see them all in one spot here. So public static final string meters equals that public static final string feet equals that public static final string mph equals this guy. Public static final string kph equals this guy. Bam. All right, so then this would be distance name equals meters. Yeah, and then otherwise, it equals feet, but honestly, I don't like the way they have this set up. Yeah, I don't like the way this is set up. So I'm going to actually change this. I'm going to make yeah, you know what? I'm going to change this. I'm going to make this less complicated than this. I'm going to say, the default will be units VE's name. All right, that's the default. So then if this is not metric, if it is US, then distance name equals feet. Right, and then I don't need this else at all because that's handled by this being default to that. And then all we gotta do then is return distance name. And that, my friends, is how you make a method that actually is easy to read from the very beginning. I mean, you look at this and you might think you've read it right at first, and then you look and it's a compound inline if, and you're like, nope, I'm not reading this right. Not reading it right at all. Now you can actually see, oh, if it's by default, it's VE's name. If not, current unit. If the current unit is set to US, then it's feet. If it's set to metric, it's set to meters, and it returns. And it's always going to return some kind of value that's not an empty string. And that's how you do that, friends. That is how that works. That said, it also does not need to be static anymore because it's going to be inherited. It's going to be inherited. So it does not need to be static because you're not going to call it from outside from the package itself. Then that way you know if it's actually being called. Does that work? Actually, I might be wrong here with that, but we'll see. I'm pretty sure that works. I might need to still make it package private. We'll see once I extend to see if I can see get unit distance name, but I'm pretty sure that will work once I extend it, because it's not, well, I mean, even if it were, yeah, because it's not final. Okay, so that takes care of those. I don't need to, again, I'll make these private for the moment, and then we'll see how that works. I have a feeling these just need to have no visibility setting on them. Draw opacity. So this enum's got to do something for me. So draw opacity is private. It's not even used, which is what's really weird to me. This is a private enum, so it's not even actually being used that I can tell. Draw opacity is nobody calling. Let's try to do a search. Draw opacity, and we'll do star.java. Yeah, here it is. UI draw opacity minimal. So it is being utilized. It's just really in a weird spot. So what I'm going to do, I mean, this is not necessarily a bad spot for it because it's part of the user interface, and you probably don't need it anywhere else except in the user interface. But it's a constant, so there's no reason to keep it out of here, I would think. Also, it's not named properly for a class, so we gotta do something with this. So what I'm gonna do is, since this looks like it's just a UI thing anyway, we'll just do a new enum, and we'll call it draw opacity. There we go. All right. So then that sets the opacity to what they want, and then you just do a generate getters and setters, and just generate a get opacity here, and then that's how that works. So basically, whenever you do draw opacity.minimal, it sets it to 0.5. Maximal sets it to 0.75, and then you just have to call get opacity on it, which is one extra little call, but big freaking deal. It's set, and you don't have to muck with it. So we do that, and we come over to here, we get rid of it in here altogether. Actually, I probably should have a reference to the draw opacity because it is important. So what I'll say is it'll be like current draw opacity or something, right? So we'll do private. All these don't have to be static. Let's get rid of some of these statics. These don't have to be static. You no longer need to be static, although these are constants. I gotta fix those. So private draw opacity, draw opacity. Whoops, pacity. There we go. Bam. All right. So whenever we need that, we've got it. Let me fix. Yeah. All right. Let's save that and see what it does here. Okay, so far so good. I think we actually somewhat cleaned up a file for a change here. I'm feeling good about this. This takes a long time though to clean up, but it does clean up eventually. So then the whole point of that was then to go back to the options interface, right? And then say that this extends user interface, right? So now I should be able to set the user interface text offset. So really I could just refer to that as text offset, right? Theoretically. So all the references to user interface can now should not be static anymore. I mean, I could do the static user interface dot return, that's fine, but these don't have to be, right? Unless I called it something else. Text offset. That's what, default text offset now? Where is that at? I've already lost it. Yeah, default text offset. Okay. All right, so now we just do seat center as the default, we'll say. Which means I don't really need it here because that'll be the default case there. So then if we get left here, it'll be seat position name equals seat left break seat position, position name equals seat right, and then the break default is seat default is just don't do anything because it's already set, because who cares, it's already set to seat center. All right, good. So then this just becomes a utext driver seat. We get rid of all of this up to that bracket. All right. And we just say in here, seat position name. There it is. And there's, again, much better ways of doing this, which we'll end up doing eventually. The units, they have they have metric and US named differently again here in units, which is just absolutely hilarious. So we got to fix that. So we're going to say that's units, right? So I feel like there's so much crap in this one method here. I feel like I want to pull some of this out into some methods. How do I want to do that though? Well, some of this can stay here. The text can stay here, but let's get the position name out of there and make it a method. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to say refactor extract method, and I'm going to say get seat position name, and we're going to make it private as it says there, and hit OK. So there we go, get seat position name, which I can just then copy down into here, and then we don't need the variable for it. Bam. All right, that works. Trying to keep it at least somewhat readable. And then the same thing or similar thing with units, but I'll do that from the get-go here. So we'll come down to seat position name. We'll say get units, although we have the get units name. right? Is it just users? Where am I at here? So what do they have? They have metric all in caps and then US with periods between it, but that doesn't have to be that way. And really shouldn't be different than the way we have it in user interface, right? So up here you get unit distance name and get unit speed name, right? So yeah, feet, meters, yeah. I mean, it should just be, granted it has it this way, but you know what, it should be consistent. Let's get some consistency in here. So this one is just going to be a call to get unit distance name, and it would be options dot get units. Right there, just like that. Excellent. And then I can pull this up onto back onto this line. All right, that's fine. Limit FPS to, and then there's user FPS u.refresh rate, JavaFX default long value of user FPS. So where was user FPS coming from? Was that coming from? I bet that's coming from the VE thing. Target FPS. Oh, it's coming from frame. Well, frame tick has a reference to it. It's in the ve.java, right? Yeah, user FPS is long.max value. That's going to be an interesting one. So that really is going to be, and it's not really an option. That's more like a current state. U.refresh rate. Long value of user FPS. Yeah, we're going to have to hold on to that thought for a moment. Camera shake. Camera shake effects. Camera.shake. I don't even know where camera is. Is camera still in? Okay, it's got its own class. Where is this at? VE camera. Oh, it's got, yeah, it's got its own class. Okay. But shake is not visible somehow. I guess I moved it out to its own class. Where's this at again? where was this? Where's this contained? Under VE, really? It's up here? That must have been there already. Which is interesting, because... Oh, right, because it was in the same package, so you could just refer to it because it's package private. Right. That's why that's suddenly got a problem. And I can't I could solve that now, but it's going to take a while just to solve that and the user FPS thing. So I'm going to kind of table that for the moment. And this should be from options menu. There we go. So normal mapping on or off. If normal mapping equals on. Oh, if normal mapping, then on or off. Right. Because it's a Boolean. So that's just a matter of just options dot get normal mapping, right? Options dot, I'm sorry, is normal mapping. because it's a Boolean. So sure, that's how that looks. I mean, that's fine that way because it's just a regular simple if. Match length is just options.get match length. All right. Tournament.stage, this will be a visibility thing. And that's another one with some text in it. We'll have to watch out for. And then vehicles in match, I think, is under options, right? Options.get. No, it's not. Oh. Where did that come from? Tracking down where these things are is half the battle now. Vehicles in match. It's in frame tech? No, it's probably in VE, right? Yeah. It's definitely in VE class. Okay. So that'll be another thing that we probably have to pass into here. So where's the VE class? So outline vehicles in match is an int. Okay. So we'll bring that in as an int then. Int vehicles in match for now, even though it doesn't make all that much sense, but it's, again, we can refactor as we come upon it. It's one of the smaller things to refactor, probably. If from options menu is, if from options menu, then selected is 8, otherwise it's 4. Again, this is like the worst kind of magic numbers, because now you gotta track down what does 8 mean and what does 4 mean. Whereas if they were just constants and they were English constants, you would be able to tell like what the hell they're talking about here. Yeah, we gotta really pull this apart to try to figure out how this is going. And this is the frustrating part of doing a refactoring of this size, is that you have to do it piecemeal, and eventually you get to a point like I'm at where it's like, well, I could dig down further, but we're way down the rabbit hole as it is right now. And that's what happens. You just end up going down the rabbit hole and trying to fix every little thing, and then you're right back up to like, well, where do I go now after I've done all of that? But it's the way it is. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly how they've put this stuff together, because it's clumped all into one method without any real rhyme or reason to it. All right, I've gone as far as I can, I think, right now with the options interface, because it's starting to burn my brain, and I know there's a lot more to do here, but I gotta kind of shift gears a little bit, because it's burning my brain is what it's doing. It's just completely destroying my ability to keep digging down here, and I'll just have to come back to that. So then it becomes where was the if game options or driver seat position, where was the effects? Yeah, public enum effects. Again, that all sounds close. Equal close sounds. Again, I don't know why this is an enumeration. It really doesn't need to be one. So I feel like I'm starting to try to turn some of these things back into actual legitimate classes here. Sound and package meteor folder. Tsunami.sound. These feel like rain.sound. Rain.sound. Oh, is there a sound? There's gotta be like a rain class, right? Yeah. Extends core. Why does that extend? What is in core? The hell? So that's just coordinates? X, Y, Z, X, Y, X, Z, Y, Z. So it's your current X, Y, and Z position and what direction you're facing and the absolute radius. So they're doing directional sound, it sounds like. But so class rain, this is an actual class, which is nice. Wrap distance, collection drop, raindrops, sound, load, raindrops, add new drop, raindrop. Why? Oh, it's actually it's modeling the raindrop and the sound for it. I don't know that I would put those two things together. Although I mean, from one perspective, it makes sense to have those together, but at the same point, it doesn't, because you want a reference to what sound to use, but you don't want the actual, which I guess that's what this is. This is a reference to the sound that's being used, right? What's the sound class look like? Current index, standard distance, clip VE, float control gain, last gain, VE. So it's okay. Sound folder. So this is the actual sound itself, and whether or not it's running, which is good. And play if not playing, resume. So this makes sense. It doesn't make sense where it's at, but it makes sense that it's separate. But what's SL? What is SL? String literals. Oh, good lord. Okay. Six strings with one white space on each side. Really? Really? This is what we're doing. This is what you've done here. Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, my hat is off to them for at least trying to abstract the text, but they did it in the worst possible way. I made a variable for everything instead of just, yeah. I feel like that's going to be something that we need to address sooner rather than later if I'm going to bring. I hate to jump into that because it's not as important right now, but at the same time, it's going to drive me up a wall if I don't do something. I'm gonna take this on. I'm gonna maybe do that next, just because it's going to bug me until I do it, and it's something I can. I've come to a point where I feel like I really need to make some progress, and I really haven't made any progress yet, and I kind of want to do something that will give me some progress forward. And I can't really, like, I wanted to do the build system, but it's not going to, I won't be able to test it because nothing's going to work because it's not going to compile, so there's no point in even doing it just yet until I get things to compile. I can't really get things to compile because stuff needs to be moved around because it's all, the visibility is all wonky. So it's going to be a while before I get to something that actually compiles, but I could at least knock out some of this stuff here. At least maybe. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to put a cut here, and then when we come back in the next episode, I will start to work on the beginnings, or try to work on the beginnings of externalized text, internationalized text, so that we can maybe bring some sanity to some of this insanity. So until then, thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I will see you hopefully next time.